Hi everybody, it's Tannous here, and I've just created this short video just to show you how to use VLookUp as a way to complete your assessment workbooks, a way of transferring marks from one spreadsheet to another. Okay, so I've created a workbook here, and of course I've just made up some students and student IDs. I also have a spreadsheet. This is the sort of spreadsheet that you would use to collate all of the marks in your unit. You may have downloaded it from Views and completed it that way, but ideally you are wanting to move these marks into your workbook. Now in the past I used to use copy and paste, but since having coordinated these very large units where we have 800 odd students, it's become a very inaccurate way of completing the workbook, moving students from one spreadsheet to another based on their names. And you know, often we have so many students that have the same surname, so that makes us a little bit more likely to make error. So the VLookUp is a really nice, quick and accurate way of transferring student marks from your spreadsheet, which would be this one, to the workbook that you need to submit to the school. Okay, so let's have a look here. So when you have your spreadsheet, okay, you would always put your student IDs in the first column. That's very important for VLookUp. I'm not quite sure why that is the case, but maybe it's because that is the lookup item. We're using student ID number as a way of linking the two spreadsheets, so you must always have student ID in the first column. Okay, so then you move over to the workbook. Okay, and you would first maybe populate this sheet, wouldn't you? The one that has the mark for each individual assessment task. So we want to carry over or bring over the mark for the essay worth 40% for the first student. So we would click on the cell where we want the mark to be transported into. Okay, we then click on the function and we check and choose VLookUp. We say OK. The lookup value is the student ID number, and so you would click on the student ID number in the workbook. So you just click on that. Okay, the table array is your spreadsheet. Okay, so you're asking VLookUp to look for the student ID in the table array in the spreadsheet that you have. So we need to then go over to the spreadsheet and highlight. I usually highlight the whole table, okay, the whole thing. Just once you've blocked it all, you can let go and it will enter into that box automatically. The column index is asking you in which column of the spreadsheet is the mark that you want to bring over into the workbook, okay? So I can't remember what that is for the 40% essay. So I'm going to go back to the spreadsheet and I count 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth column is where all the essay marks are. So I just simply type in 4 there, and then I always type in false at the end. And you click OK, and you can see the first mark of 30 has been carried over. Let's check that that's right. That's for Bjorn again, is the student. And I go over to check in the spreadsheet and I can see 30 is correct. Okay. Once you've done that and you've checked the top one, I go back to the workbook, and you can carry down the formula just by dragging down that cell, or you can go to the bottom corner and double click and Excel will bring it over for you using that VLookUp formula. So again, you can do a little random check. Frida Fernando, 35. Let's go back to the spreadsheet. Frida Fernando, 35, correct. Okay, so you should always do that. Always go back and forward and check that the right mark is being carried over. Harry Potter, 16. Let's go back to the Excel spreadsheet. Harry Potter, 16, correct. So that's been done correctly, and that was really super easy. Let's do the next one, presentation, 20%, same thing, okay? Highlight the cell that you want the mark to move into. Click on VLookUp, okay? lookup value is the student ID. We click on the student ID in the workbook. Table array, I'm going to move over to the spreadsheet and highlight the table that I want VLookUp to look for that student ID in. Okay, and it clicks into that box for you automatically. Column index, okay, so now I'm looking for the presentation worth 20%. I go back to the spreadsheet. I want to make sure I get the right column. 1, 2, 3, 4. The presentation is in column 5. I click 5 here. Lookup range is false. I'm not quite sure what this means. It's telling VLookUp that you only want the absolute value. You don't want it to make any approximations, I think. But in any case, I've always put false, and that's what you need to do. There you go, 15 out of 20. For Bjorn again, let's check that in the spreadsheet. 15 out of 20, correct. Okay. I'm going to move back to the workbook, and I'm going to populate all those cells with a click. There you go, really super fast. Again, you should do a random check. Let's look up William Shakespeare, 18 out of 20 for him. Let's check our spreadsheet. William Shakespeare, 18 out of 20, correct. Okay, and I'm going to do the next one just to finish that off and just show you how quickly it is. Click the cell, click on VLookUp, okay. Lookup value is always a student ID. Table array, go to the spreadsheet, highlight the spreadsheet, click. Column index, what's the number of the column? I'm going to count, go back to the spreadsheet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the column where the exam is. So I'm going to type in 6 here and false. Okay, 10 out of 40 for the exam. For Bjorn again, let's check. Correct. Okay, I'm going to go back to the workbook now. I will do a double click. If the double click doesn't work, you can just do the drag, and that will work as well. But depending on how many you have, and because I actually have quite a few in my unit, the double click is actually really convenient. There you go. And again, you should do a random check. Let's check Paris Harris, 12 out of 40 for the exam. Paris Harris, 12 out of 40 for the exam. Okay, so it's really, really super easy and super fast. Okay, once you've got your spreadsheet completed, it takes no time to use VLookUp to move the marks from your spreadsheet into the workbook. Okay, and you could do the same thing with this part of the workbook where you need to put the ongoing assessment mark there, okay, and the separate exam mark there. Same sort of thing. Of course, in your spreadsheet, to work this out, you would need to sum up the assessment marks and then use VLookUp to bring that total assessment mark into this column. Okay, but you could quite easily bring over the final exam column, just like we did in sheet number 2, where we did this. Okay, now VLookUp is also a really good way of finding. Actually, before I show you this next bit, I'll probably need to populate this. So let me do this first. I'm going to populate the exam mark first. VLookUp, student ID, table array, just as we did before. Okay, column index. I remember that the exam is in column 6. Just quickly check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, correct. And false for that last box in the range lookup. Okay. Okay. Quickly populate those. The reason why it's coming up with not applicable there is because there are no student IDs here to look up. That's why it's doing that. You can just delete those. And to organise, to work out the assessment total, you will need to sum up those. Okay, so you might want to do a sum here of assessment 1 and the presentation. Okay, auto sum. 45. So 30 and the 15, the two assessment tasks, not the exam mark. Okay, you'll get that one really quickly. I often like to copy and paste values only here so that when I do the VLOOKUP, I'm not transferring over a formula into the cell. So I'll just say copy and paste values only. So then that formula's gone there and I've got actual numbers there. Okay, you can just do a quick check. 32 and 13, correct. 5 and 2, 7, 31 and 30, yeah, that's all good. Okay, and this would be assessment total, 60%. And this is the one that needs to go into the into this column here in the workbook, the assessment marks. This is assignments. So I'm going to use VLOOKUP again. Click on function, formula, sorry, VLOOKUP, okay. The lookup value is always a student ID. Table array, I'm going to go back to the spreadsheet, highlight the spreadsheet, now including that extra column that I've created. Column index number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 now. And lookup range is false. And it's okay. 45. Let me check. Pawn again. 45, correct. Okay, there you go, done. Again, you always check a random number of students, okay, making sure that you've done it correctly and the formula has worked correctly for you. That's really important. I also use VLOOKUP as a way of identifying non-enrolled students. These are students who are not in your workbook, but they are in your spreadsheet. What that means is they've maybe enrolled late in the unit or they're a miscellaneous enrolment. In any case, you have a mark for them and that needs to be submitted even though they're not listed in the workbook. So the way I identify those students is I do a reverse VLOOKUP, and the way I do that is I create a column in the spreadsheet here, and I'll just call it non-enrolled. So I'm looking for, in doing this, I'm asking VLOOKUP to identify these student numbers in the workbook, okay? And if it doesn't appear, and if one of these student IDs aren't in the workbook, it'll come up as a non-applicable here. Okay, that's the way I identify the non-enrolled students. So, and I have actually purposely put in a student in this list just to highlight to you how it's shown. So I'm going to do VLOOKUP in reverse using the spreadsheet now. So I want to click on the cell in the spreadsheet this time. I'm going to choose VLOOKUP in my formulas, click OK. Again, always using the student ID as the lookup value, but this time in the spreadsheet. Okay, table array. So now I want VLOOKUP to look into the workbook to identify these student IDs. So I would highlight these values this time in the workbook. Okay. Column value, it can be anything. Okay, it doesn't really matter because I'm really just trying to see whether there is a score for this student. And if there isn't a score, it's because there's no student number in the workbook to begin with. And that's how I can identify that that student is not non-enrolled. Okay, so I will just, I can just choose column 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll just choose column 5, which is the total mark. Okay, I'll just say 5, yeah. And lookup range, always false. Click OK, and you can see that, yes, Bjorn again is in the workbook, and their total mark is 55. Okay, if I click on here, oh, it's not working this time for me, so I'm going to have to drag the formula down. You can see that all these students identified by these IDs are in the workbook, but this student here isn't. Okay, so it wasn't able to bring over the mark. And so I know that then for this student here, Joseph Taylor, I would then need to complete the other spreadsheet, which is the spreadsheet for results for non-enrolled students, and I would submit their mark to the school that way. Okay, well, I hope that's been really helpful for you.